My aunt left me her house. I'd only met her maybe 4 times. But when Eden Brooks died at 102, her lawyer called with unexpected news. I had inherited everything. The house, the land, everything inside it, with one condition. There's a locked room on the 2nd floor, the lawyer said. You are never to open it. If you do, the house immediately goes to charity. What's inside it? I asked. I don't know, he said. She never told me. Only that this rule was absolute. I should have declined right then. But my life was collapsing. My mother had died 6 months earlier. My relationship had ended. My freelance journalism work was drying up. A free house felt like survival. So I accepted and signed the papers, promising I would never open that door. Have you ever inherited something unusual? Share your experience in the comments. And if you enjoy stories about family secrets, hidden rooms, or life-changing discoveries, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss the next story. The house was in coastal Oregon, a small remote town 3 hours from Portland and 20 minutes from the nearest grocery store. Quiet, isolated, ideal for someone trying to disappear from her old life. I arrived on a cold October afternoon. Light rain in the air, gray sky, gray ocean in the distance. The house was Victorian, 3 stories, pale blue paint, faded almost white. Wraparound porch, overgrown garden, still beautiful in a wild way. It looked like something out of a Gothic novel, the type of place where secrets linger in the walls. I unlocked the front door with the key the lawyer mailed me. Inside felt like stepping into the past. Furniture from the 60s, floral wallpaper, thick carpets, everything clean but untouched, like Eden had stopped updating the place 50 years ago and simply maintained it. Hello? I called out, immediately feeling ridiculous. No one was there. But the house felt occupied somehow. Only silence responded. I moved through slowly. Living room, kitchen, dining room, library. The library stunned me. Floor-to-ceiling shelves packed with books. Hundreds, maybe thousands. I picked one at random. The Codebreakers by David Kahn, Cryptography. Another book, Between Silk and Cyanide, World War II Podes. Another, The Secret Life of Bletchley Park. A theme was forming. In the kitchen, a handwritten note sat on the counter. Welcome, Cassandra. Everything you need is here. Respect the house. Respect the rules. Eden had prepared this before she died, waiting for me. Upstairs, the 2nd floor held 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and at the end of the hallway, the locked room. That door was unlike the others. Heavier, darker wood. Solid. Almost like it was designed to keep something in or out. The brass doorknob was tarnished. No visible keyhole. I touched it. Cold. Pressed my ear against it. Nothing. Total silence. I tried the knob. Locked, of course. What are you hiding, Eden? I whispered. The house stayed still. I chose the bedroom farthest from the locked room and unpacked my 2 suitcases. My entire life reduced to 2 bags. That's what 6 months of grief and burnout can do. That first night, I lay in bed listening. Old houses make noises, wind, pipes, settling wood. But I thought I heard something else. Footsteps? Probably not. A door closing. Likely the wind. Definitely my imagination. I barely slept. The next morning, I began exploring properly. Eden's bedroom was the largest, facing the ocean with a gorgeous view. Her clothes were still in the closet. Simple, practical cardigans and one expensive-looking dress that seemed unworn. Photos lined the dresser. Eden at different ages, always alone. No husband, no children, just her. Except for one photo, she looked maybe 25, wearing a uniform, hair pinned up, serious expression. Beside her stood a man, also in uniform, young, serious, handsome. They weren't touching, but the closeness between them suggested something unspoken. No names, no date. I pocketed it. Her nightstand held letters, dozens tied with ribbon, yellowed with age. I opened one, but I couldn't read it. Not because the handwriting was poor, but because it was written in code, random letters, a cipher. "What were you hiding, Eden?" I said softly to the empty room. The first week, I focused on settling in, learning the house, the town, the routines. The town was quiet. One grocery store, one coffee shop, one bar, a library, a post office. People were polite but distant. At the coffee shop, the owner, Margaret, around 60, recognized me instantly. "You're Eden's niece." "Well, grandniece technically," she said. She was a special woman. Very private, but kind. "Did you know her well?" I asked. "As well as anyone could, which wasn't much," Margaret said with a sad smile. She kept to herself, always reading. Margaret hesitated, then leaned closer, like sharing a secret. "There were rumors about her," she said. "That she had security clearance. That she knew things." "What war?" I asked. "World War II, dear. He'd have been the right age, early 20s. "Are you sure?" "That's what old Timothy used to say. He knew her back then. Claimed she was important during the war." "Where can I find Timothy?" "You can't," Margaret said gently. "He passed away last April." "Oh, I'm sorry," I said. "Did Eden ever mention family?" "Not that I heard. You're the first relative I've seen. She lived alone all those years. Never married. No children. Seemed capable, independent, but lonely." Back at the house, I kept exploring. The library continued to fascinate me. As a journalist, I live for information, and this place was a goldmine. But the topics were so specific: cryptography, World War II, espionage, SOE, military intelligence, poetry, love poems. One modern book stood out, The Code Book, by Simon Singh, published in 1999. It was bookmarked on a chapter about wartime ciphers. In the margins, Eden had writ, "Pencil, Playfair, still effective for field ops. Visionaire, vulnerable if key repeats. One-time pad, only truly secure." She wasn't reading casually. She was studying, relearning, or remembering. Why? The bookmarked page explained how wartime codebreakers worked, and why their efforts remained classified for decades. In the margin, "We knew. We always knew. But we couldn't say." I felt chills. 1 week in, I walked past the locked room and paused. I'd been avoiding it, taking different routes, refusing to think about it. But now, standing in front of it, I felt that same pull. I tried the handle. Still locked. I knelt, trying to see through a keyhole, but there wasn't one. I pressed my ear to the door again. This time, I felt something. Not noise, not movement. Just presence, a heaviness, a waiting. "What are you?" I whispered. No answer. I went downstairs and searched online. Eden Brooks, World War II. Nothing. Eden Brooks classified. Nothing. Eden Brooks cryptography. Nof. She had no digital trace, or it had been removed, which meant Margaret's rumors were probably true. Eden had been involved in something classified, something still hidden, and whatever it was, stood behind that locked door. 2 weeks later, I discovered the diaries hidden behind a false panel in the library. 5 leather-bound journals dated 1942, 1945. I opened the first one, hoping for answers, but every page, every line, was written in code. Not the same code as the letters, a more complex one, page after page of encrypted entries, years of Eden's life sealed off. I wanted to give up. I wasn't a code breaker. I wrote local political articles and human interest features, but I couldn't walk away. That night, I started researching how to break ciphers. what methods existed, what patterns to look for. Slowly, I began learning. 3 months in, I was obsessed. Every day, I worked on the codes, testing patterns, spotting repeats, trying hypotheses. The locked room pulled at me constant. I'd walk by, touch the door, listen, feel the draw. I knew I wasn't supposed to open it, ethically or legally. But I needed answers. Why hide all of this? Why leave everything to me if I wasn't meant to understand? At night, I dreamed about the room. Sometimes horrifying things inside, sometimes beautiful things. Always waking up with my heart racing. 4 months in, I made a breakthrough. The diaries used a modified Vigenère cipher that required a keyword. I tried everything. Eden, Brooks, war, love, secret. Nothing worked. Then I remembered the photo, the man in uniform beside her. I tried common names, John, William, Robert. No luck. Then, half joking, I tried Dean, the first line decoded. Today I met someone who will change my life. His name is Dean Clark. My hands shook. I had it. 2 weeks later, I finished decoding all 5 diaries. And when I did, I understood everything. If you are a parent, there's something you should ask yourself. Does my child truly know Poe? Are loved. On the surface, most parents would quickly say yes. But the real truth becomes clear only after listening to how your child describes you to others. A small boy once walked into class, and his teacher knew right away that something was off. His left eye was swollen, and he could barely open it. His arm was bandaged, and a deep bruise stretched across his cheek. His teacher froze for a moment, unsure of what she was seeing. "What happened to you?" she asked gently. But the boy didn't answer. He just stared at the floor. When the teacher looked closer, she noticed faint cuts on his wrist, some fresh, some older. At that point, she didn't know if they were accidents or something far more serious. But she knew she had to act. She walked over to the staff room and urgently called the child's mother. The moment the mother heard her son was injured, she panicked. She rushed to the school for the first time ever, because this teacher had tried to contact her many times before. And she never once responded. When the mother arrived, the teacher explained everything she had seen. Instead of comforting her child, the mother reacted defensively. "He must have fallen," she said quickly. "He does that all the time. Kids get hurt. He's always clumsy." But the teacher wasn't convinced. Something deep inside her told her the injuries didn't match that explanation. Later, after school, the teacher asked the boy again, quietly, away from everyone else. "Did someone hurt you?" He hesitated, then whispered, "No." But the way he said it, it didn't sound like the truth. Later that night, the teacher couldn't stop thinking about him. She had been a teacher for 15 years, and she had seen enough to know when things didn't add up. The next morning, she made a decision. She would not wait for something worse to happen. She scheduled a meeting with the school counselor, the principal, and the mother. When they all sat down together, the counselor asked the boy to explain. Happened. This time, he spoke clearly. I fell off my bike. But the injuries didn't look like bike injuries. They looked like something else. Something done by someone's hand, not by accident. The mother repeated her story, growing frustrated. "He's lying," she insisted. "He always lies. He makes things up to get attention." The room fell silent. The counselor leaned down toward the boy and asked softly, "Who told you to say that?" The boy's eyes filled with tears. "My dad." And suddenly, the entire situation shifted. For the first time, the teacher felt fear, not for herself, but for her student. Something was very wrong in this household, and they were only seeing the surface. The counselor quickly closed her notebook. "We will look into this," he said. "Thank you for telling the truth." The mother looked furious, but she didn't say a word. When the boy returned to class, he sat quietly in the back, his shoulders tense, as if he were waiting for someone to punish. The teacher knew this was only the beginning. Something dark was happening in that home, and they were about to uncover it. When the school filed its report, an investigation was opened. A social worker was assigned to visit the family's home. The teacher hoped this would finally reveal what was really happening, but she also feared what she might learn. A week later, the social worker came to the school to speak privately with the teacher. Her expression was calm, but her eyes carried the weight of something troubling. "I went to the house," she said. "The mother barely spoke to me. The father wouldn't come out of his room. And the boy, he wouldn't say a single word." The teacher felt her stomach twist. "Did you see any signs of violence?" she asked. The social worker nodded slowly. "Not directly, but I could feel the tension in that home. The boy stayed close to me, as if he didn't want me to leave." She paused for a moment. Sometimes the absence of words speaks louder than anything. Over the next several days, the boy seemed even more withdrawn. He flinched at loud sounds. He avoided eye contact, and whenever someone asked him how he was, he forced a small smile and said, "I'm fine." One afternoon, while packing up after class, the teacher found the boy lingering by the door. He looked nervous, twisting the strap of his backpack with both hands. "Is everything okay?" she asked softly. He swallowed hard. "Can I tell you something?" The teacher nodded, giving him all the time he needed. "My dad." He stopped, his voice trembling. "He gets really mad." "How mad?" the teacher asked gently. He looked around to make sure no one was listening. "He yells, he breaks things, and sometimes he tells me it's my fault." The teacher felt her heart sink. "Does he ever hurt you?" The boy didn't answer right away. Instead, he pulled his sleeve up just enough to reveal a faint bruise on his wrist. "He grabbed me," he whispered. "Because he said." The teacher kept her voice steady, even though her chest tightened. "Thank you for telling me. You did the right thing." The boy lowered his sleeve quickly. "Please don't tell him I said anything. He'll be even more mad." The teacher knelt beside him. "I won't let anything bad happen to you. I promise." But she knew promises weren't always enough. She immediately contacted the counselor, who began the paperwork for additional protective measures. Still, situations like this are never simple. A few days later, the boy didn't show up for school. The teacher called the mother. No answer. She tried again. Nothing. Hours passed, and the worry grew heavier. Eventually, the school contacted the authorities. That evening, the teacher sat at her desk long after everyone else had gone home. A part of her feared the worst. Another part hoped that maybe, just maybe, the family had taken him somewhere safe. But something told her this story wasn't heading in a good direction. The next, the boy finally returned to class, except this time, he wasn't alone. His father walked into the classroom with him. The moment the father stepped inside the classroom, the air shifted. He had a heavy presence, broad shoulders, clenched jaw, eyes that scanned the room as if evaluating every person in it. The teacher noticed how the boy walked slightly behind him, almost hiding in his shadow. "Are you his teacher?" the father asked, his voice low but edged with irritation. "Yes," she replied carefully. "Is everything all right?" The father gave a tight, forced smile. "He's been staying home because he wasn't feeling well, but he's fine now." The boy kept his head down, silent. The teacher could feel something was wrong. Every instinct told her this man was the root of the child's fear. When the father finally left, the boy let out a small breath, as if he had been holding it the entire time. He moved to his desk quietly and didn't speak to anyone for the rest of the morning. During recess, the teacher watched him sit alone under a tree. He didn't run, didn't play, didn't laugh. He just sat there, hugging his knees, staring at the ground. When class resumed, she noticed he winced whenever he lifted his arm. She gently asked, "Does your arm hurt?" He shook his head quickly. "No, it's fine." But pain flickered in his eyes. Later that afternoon, the counselor entered the classroom and asked to see him. The teacher watched the boy follow her out, his steps slow and unsure. After nearly an hour, those words landed like a punch. They had no time to waste. The counselor immediately contacted Child Protection Services. This time, she requested an emergency response. As the final school bell rang, the boy lingered near the classroom door again, clutching his backpack straps with trembling hands. "Do I have to go home now?" he whispered. The teacher knelt beside him. "For now, yes, but someone will help you very soon," she said softly. He nodded, but his eyes filled with fear. Minutes later, a caseworker arrived at the school and met with the staff. After reviewing the new information, she made a decision. "We're going to the house," she said, "tonight." As she left to carry out the visit, the teacher could only hope it wouldn't be too late. That evening, the caseworker knocked on the family's door. But when the door opened, she realized something instantly. The father looked shocked, almost caught off guard. And the boy, standing behind him, looked more frightened. Something was terribly wrong inside that home. When the caseworker stepped inside, the atmosphere of the house wrapped around her like a heavy blanket. The living room lights were dim, the curtains drawn, even though it was still early evening. The furniture was neatly arranged, but the air carried tension, thick and unsettling. The father crossed his arms. "Why are you here again? We already talked to someone last week." The caseworker kept her voice calm. "We received new information. I need to speak with your son privately." His jaw tightened. "There's no need for that. He's fine. He already told you what happened." But the boy stood behind him, his shoulders curled inward, as if trying to disappear. "I still need to speak with him," the caseworker repeated firmly. The father hesitated for a long moment before finally stepping aside. "Fine, but I want to hear everything." "That won't be possible," she said evenly. "This conversation has to be confidential." His eyes. But he didn't argue. The caseworker led the boy to the small dining area. She crouched so they were at eye level. "I'm here to help you," she said gently. "You can tell me anything." He looked down at his shoes. His fingers fidgeted anxiously. "Did something happen at home?" she asked. He shook his head, but then, quietly, almost inaudibly, he whispered, "He said I have to say I fell." The caseworker felt her heart freeze. "Who told you that?" "My dad." The words trembled out of him. "Did he hurt you?" The boy's eyes filled with tears. He gets angry. He says I make him mad. He says I don't listen." He lifted his sleeve, revealing a dark bruise on his upper arm, round, unmistakably left by fingers. "He grabbed me here," he said, "because I cried." The caseworker's breath caught, but she maintained a steady tone. "Thank you for telling me. You're very brave." In that moment, footsteps approached. The father was standing in the doorway, watching. "What's tacky?" The caseworker stood upright. "I need to speak with you outside." They stepped onto the porch, the cold air hitting them both. "I'm filing an emergency safety order," she said firmly. "Your son will not be staying here tonight." The father's face tightened with fury. "This is ridiculous. He's lying. My son lies all the time." But she didn't back down. "I've heard enough to confirm he's not safe here." The father's voice rose. You can't just take him. Yes, she replied, unwavering. I can, and I will. She stepped back inside, her voice firm and protective. Pack a few things, she told the boy softly. You're coming with me. The boy hesitated, fear flashing in his eyes. My dad. He can't hurt you right now, she assured him. I promise. As the boy gathered his belongings, the father paced like a storm waiting to break. But the caseworker stayed between them, unwavering. Minutes later, she led the child to her car. The boy looked out the window his face a mixture of relief and guilt, as if escaping was both a blessing and a betrayal. That night, the teacher received a message from the caseworker. He's safe, for now. The teacher sat back, letting out a breath she didn't even realize she'd been holding. But her relief was short-lived, because the next morning she got another call, a call that changed everything. Early the next morning, the teacher's phone rang. She answered immediately, expecting good news, that the boy had slept safely, that arrangements were being made, that things were finally turning around. But the voice on the other end was heavy. It's about your student, the caseworker said quietly. There's something you need to know. The teacher sat up straighter, dread crawling into her chest. What happened? The caseworker exhaled slowly. He's refusing to speak. He won't eat. He cried the entire night. He keeps saying he wants to go home. Even though he's terrified of his father. The teacher fell. Twist. But why would he want to go back? Because children always hope, the caseworker replied, even when home is the place that hurts them. Later that afternoon, the teacher visited the temporary care facility where the boy was staying. When she walked into the room, he was sitting on the edge of a small bed, holding a stuffed animal the staff had given him. His eyes were red from hours of crying. When he saw her, he wiped his face quickly. Hi, she said softly, pulling a chair close. Are you doing okay? He shrugged, his voice barely above a whisper. I want to go home. I know, she replied gently. But right now, you're somewhere safe, and that matters. He hugged the stuffed animal tighter. Is my dad mad? He asked. The teacher hesitated, choosing her words carefully. That doesn't matter right now. What matters is you. He didn't respond. He just stared at the floor. After a moment, he spoke again. Do you think he hates me? The teacher felt her. No, I think your father doesn't know how to handle his anger, and that's not your fault. He looked up at her, tears welling again. I don't want to make people mad. I try to be good. You are good, she said firmly. None of this is your fault. Not a single part of it. A small tear slid down his cheek. The teacher stayed with him for as long as she could, talking about school, his favorite games, and all the things he used to laugh about. Slowly, the tension eased from his tiny shoulders. But when visiting hours ended, the boy clung to her arm. Please don't leave me, he whispered. The teacher knelt beside him. I'm not leaving you, she said softly. There are people who will protect you. You are not alone. He nodded weakly, but the fear remained in his eyes. Over the next few weeks, investigations continued. More signs of abuse surfaced. More truths came out. Eventually, a judge made a decision. The boy would not return to his father's home. Instead, he was placed in the care of an aunt who lived in another city. Someone kind, someone patient, someone who had been trying for years to bring him into her home. As the teacher prepared to say goodbye, the boy handed her a small drawing he made. On it, he had drawn 2 stick figures holding hands, one tall, one small, with a sun shining above them. That's you, he said quietly. You saved me. Tears filled her eyes. I didn't save you, she replied softly. You saved yourself. I just listened. The boy smiled for the first time in a long while. And as he walked away with his aunt, a new chapter began. One filled with safety, warmth, and the love he had always deserved. Because sometimes the bravest thing a child can do is tell the truth. And sometimes the most powerful thing an adult can do is hear it. Thanks for watching, and we see you in the next.